of all, I would like to thank everyone who's come. This is absolutely wonderful. I'm so grateful for the international presence as well as the national presence. I do want to introduce some people to you so that you know who's on the national board for the TOS in the United States. Jason Shriram is not only my brother and my best friend, but also the treasurer for our board, and he's a very good treasurer. He keeps us in line. Joyce Barrett is on our board as well. She's the secretary of our board, and she actually is the one who came up with this idea for the webinar. She is a dynamo of ideas, and I really love working with her. She's wonderful. And I guess I should say that I'm Ananya Sriram Rajan, and I'm the president for the TOS in the United States. I'm trying to see, Bruce Shea is a new member to our board, along with, where is she? Anne Sermon Gillis. So these are our two new board members. And then we have Peggy Hubel, who is our vice president. So am I missing anybody? I don't think so. Diane Eisenberg, she runs our healing network. So when you send in names for healing, she's the one who coordinates all of that. She does a marvelous job with it. And then I have to, she's going to get embarrassed, but I have to talk about Diana Dunningham Shepperton, because she is, she's always been a mentor for me with TOS, because
look, I'll just talk about myself, all right?
You want to talk about yourself?
I was kind of joking, you know.
See, she gets embarrassed. But she was our previous international secretary for the TOS before Nancy Seacrest took over as international secretary. So, but I started, when I got into TS, Diana was the one who kept me going, and she was just a source of information and inspiration. So, so today we're going to talk about resilience. And through this whole pandemic, it's been really quite difficult for many organizations about how to move forward. And one of the problems that we've had is the fact that so many of us have to be isolated from other people. And so, you know, many of the national headquarters at the Theosophical Society in Wheaton, Illinois is closed. The international center is closed. So we've sort of been not meeting except for virtual meetings. And I think it gets hard on many people not having physical contact with each other. Joyce, did you want to say anything about what inspired you to do the webinar?
I think just because I deal with parents and educators all over the state of Colorado, and we as an organization, you know, just we're all struggling so much, and it's so important that I think we check in with each other. You know, how can we keep serving others sometimes unless we kind of check and make sure we're all okay? So it's so easy to do things outside of our group, but I thought it was really important that we check in and find out how we're all surviving, and what are some of the steps we can do to develop resilience and move forward.
Okay. So who is the one who's going to share the screen?
I am.
Okay. Okay.
And
so we're going to ask everybody just to mute themselves, if that's possible. And then we will definitely, you know, take some breaks, and I think take some breaks in between, and also have a Q&A afterwards, just so that we can make this interactive, because we don't want to just talk to everybody, but allow people to share their stories as well. So the basic goal today is just to connect with everyone across the world and across the country. checking in to see how people are doing, you know, and to share information about how we're taking care of ourselves and how we're supporting each other. We also want to be able to support the groups that we work with. So we're going to just have a conversation about how are we doing this? And then how do we, within the Theosophical Order of Service, how do we move forward in our service projects? And how do we support each other doing that? And like I said before, you know, I've already introduced our TOS board members. We do in this slide provide email addresses. And you're welcome to contact our TOS board members if you have any questions or anything like that. So right now what we're going to do is through this whole thing, we've decided to do some anonymous polling. So, which is a real cool technique with Zoom. So we'd like everyone to just take the poll. It's completely anonymous. Nobody's going to know what you say. Jason's going to manage the poll, and then Joyce is going to present from this point on. So what is our poll? What's the question? And I hope everyone can see it on their screen.
So that's poll 4.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's poll 4, Jason.
I went to poll 4. Hold on a second. I was on 1.
Maybe it's poll 4 because, oh, there we are. Okay. So if everyone can go ahead and answer the poll, what brought you here today?
And one of the things to note is that, you know, the first answer is if you're a member of the TS only and the TOS, or the second answer is if you're a member of the TOS only. So we were trying to figure out if you're a member of both.
And are board members supposed to answer this too?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Can I say something else?
I've lost the plot already. What are
So
we supposed to
Jason, we're
ask about?
seeing 2 slides at the same time.
Oh, that's odd.
So I just want to make sure that everybody was able to answer the poll.
No, I couldn't. I've lost the plot already. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm trying to click on 3 or 4 things there and I can't.
No, you can only click on one.
Why? I'm a member, I'm an international member. I'm a member of both of the above. I'm a participant interested in the topic.
It should have said multi. It should have given multiple answers. It's the first time we've tried this, so.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You want to see the answers?
Yes.
Okay, so we have members from both the TS and the TOS as the largest, as most of the people participating here.
I'm not sure if my TOS membership is active anymore, so I just put I'm a member of the TS.
Well, in the United States, the way that we have done it, as we have done it in the past, is generally, we don't really have a membership in the TOS for the United States because it was getting a little too complicated. So it's just basically anybody who wants to be involved in service activity under the guise of the Theosophical Order of Service. When, I think it was when Tim Boyd was president, anyone who was a member, and Nancy was the president of the TOS, she had said that anyone who was a member of the TS was automatically a member of the TOS. Because in general, around the world, the two organizations work side by side. So, Joyce, did you want to go ahead and talk about
We
this?
are ready for slide 5, right? Welcome to 2021. What a year 2020 was, right? And as we move forward in the new year, many of us have experienced additional challenges due to health, loss and grief, financial instability, and adjusting to working from home and remote learning for children and grandchildren. These affect people in very different ways, and many are reporting increased levels of anxiety, depression, and isolation. You know, we're almost at our 3rd month of 2021, the month when a year ago, most states went into some form of lockdown. And many of us thought, hey, we're going to be back to normal by summer. But summer came and the COVID rates were higher and became higher. So life is much different. And next slide. So we just want people to know we're all in this together. You know, none of us should feel like we are different from what others are experiencing right now. We're all feeling impacted in some way. And next slide. So one more poll, another poll we're going to try on you. So for the purpose of really trying to understand what we're all going through, or our extended family members, even our neighborhoods, we have this poll and it's anonymous. So you can select any of these that are impacting you, your family, or maybe your little neighborhood. So loss of job, loss of a loved one, childcare, children's school, depression, mental health, internet connection challenges, which many of us do, family health issues. So let's get a feeling. What are we experiencing or have experienced?
I'm just wondering if there should be another selection, none of the above. That would be my selection.
Okay.
Good point. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, you're lucky.
You are.
Well, I agree. As a matter of fact, it's given me the isolation part of this has been good for my soul, I have to say. It's given me time to reflect, and I'm grateful that my family and the people I really care about have not succumbed to the pandemic or to any type of health issues that I'm aware of. So I wish we had that choice.
And another one, for example, my husband's aunt died. I didn't know her, but I have a friend who has 21 family members that have COVID right now, and she recently lost an aunt, and then she has another one that's going to pass over really soon. And so my heart goes out for her, even though I don't know her family members. But, you know, we have people that are impacted that we know that are our loved ones, even though they didn't die, but they've been deeply affected.
So it looks like we have the results, and that family health issues is the largest category. And it's very, yeah.
May I say something?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm a little bit worried because it is so negative. I'm getting so negative about those remarks. Couldn't we also add something that we have learned during this period? There are also positive things. Of course, we have all these troubles, everybody in the world, in Holland the same. But we always look, it's not only complaining, there are also challenging opportunities. And I miss, perhaps it comes later, but it's not in it here. That's what I miss.
And we hope to get to that soon.
Yeah, that
Okay.
is, we are moving toward that, you know, in that direction.
I have always learned Americans, they don't talk about problems, they talk about challenging opportunities. So what I see here is only problem. But
All
perhaps.
right, well, we will move on and let's find out how we're tackling this.
Okay.
So we're still going to go through this for a little bit. So next slide.
Okay.
So one thing to research though, because there are many challenges people are going through, is how important the strong support system has been. And so that is one reason we wanted to create this webinar. First of all, to check in, hope we're all doing well, hope we all have strategies of getting to resilience. And so that is one purpose and why we're doing this. So, but good points. And so this positive support approach to life, many of us have learned that, we've got to go beyond this. That's the next slide. And I know there are ways we've all found to learn how to get beyond this. And if we're an organization that believes in service and living our ethics and beliefs, then again, we need to make sure first of, we're all okay. And that we are being lights to each other in our groups as well as to others out in the community. And we also just a reminder that we really need to also have compassion for ourselves. Because sometimes, we're not looking at ourselves and forgiving some of the things we may be doing, but to be lights to each other, let's have compassion for ourselves. So next slide. So the idea of moving forward, we chose the word forward instead of moving on because moving on implies being involved in the same kind of actions as before the pandemic. And yes, and we're realizing that we can't quite do things like we've always done, but we've been using our higher creativity. We've been finding ways. And how can we become stronger through this? And Ananya will now talk about the process of resilience.
Okay, so according to the American Psychology Association, the process of resilience is being able to adapt to difficult or challenging life experiences mentally, emotionally, and behaviorally. And that includes having flexibility and being able to adjust to external and internal demands. Now, the thing is, we think that everybody has resilience. Because if we have resilience, surely everybody else has to have resilience, but that's not necessarily the case, because as we can see, no two flowers are the same, no two snowflakes are the same. We are just very, very different beings. Our experiences are different and so forth. So resilience has also been looked at as the capacity to be able to recover quickly from an event, a life event. I was thinking of I'm wondering how it's going to be for the children who are going through this pandemic right now, who are having to be homeschooled, and they're being isolated and kept from their friends. Because we don't, I'm really wondering how much we teach resilience to children and whether resilience can be taught. I think it can be taught. I think we can, there's the nature versus nurture. And I do think that we're able to, how we raise our children, how we live our lives is, that helps build resilience, and who we spend our time with. That also helps with resilience. So it's this ability to be able to spring back. And chances are, when we spring back after a life event, whether it's a death or it's a pandemic or it's even something like a car accident, being able to get back into the car again. And yeah, naturally, you're going to feel a little nervous after a major car accident, but to be able to get back in and get back, as they say, get back on the horse and ride. That's a really important thing to be able to do, instead of letting the reaction to the whole thing affect you so tremendously that you can't do it. So that whole bouncing back, you're not going to be, I think we always think that resilience means that we're going to bounce back and we're going to be the same person that we were before the life event happened. And that's absolutely impossible because we are no longer the same after a life event. But the quote, nature always finds a way. We tend to feel that we are separate from nature, but actually we're just part of it. And if we give ourselves the time and the energy to be able to allow ourselves to heal, we can always find a way to bounce back. So resilience is it has 5 different pillars: self-awareness, mindfulness, self-care, positive relationships, and purpose. Now, these things are so important because they are sort of the foundation of what keeps us going. You know, being able to be self-aware isn't just about, you know, we need the small self in order to work with the larger self, you know, the one with the capital S. We need that small self-awareness to be able to be quote unquote self-aware. And that's paying attention to our emotions, how we are reacting, what is our body doing, you know, having mindfulness. What thoughts are running through our heads? How are we perceiving things? And then physically taking care of ourselves. You know, self-care also means looking after our emotions and our thoughts and our body, as well as our spiritual well-being. You know, keeping positive relationships around ourselves. I don't know if we realize how much we get influenced by other people's negativity. But having positive relationships tends to keep the energy within us positive. And everyone needs a purpose in life. We all need something to wake up to. That's one of the biggest problems that many people who are retired or who are elderly lack, is because they don't know what to do with their life when they wake up in the morning, especially now. It's sort of like, you know, you don't have family to visit or you can't. So we're going to do another anonymous poll. And we are gonna address the comments that are coming in. So don't think that we're ignoring you. We're not ignoring you. We just want to get through this so we can have a discussion. So we're gonna do a checking in with you. And do you want to go ahead and set up the poll?
It should be on.
Yep.
So we can answer multiple choices on this one, right?
You should be able to. I set them all for multiple choice.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not, I tried
No.
it. It's not allowing it.
That's odd. When we tested, they were working.
Yeah.
I think because I'm running the poll, I don't get to vote.
I'm only to be able to.
Yeah,
pick
you
one.
can only set one,
Yeah.
so it's not really going to be useful.
You know, I'm wondering who is this who's here? Who's Tupelo M? Because I don't remember.
Tupelo was somebody who found us on Facebook and wanted to join today.
Okay, but the comments that are coming in are not really
Oh,
very conducive to our things. So, I'd like to just suggest that if you don't have something positive to contribute to the webinar, to just not comment, please.
okay, we're at 90 seconds.
So look at how many of the people that are present today meditate. This is wonderful. And nobody says a mantra through the day.
I do, but I could only
I
check
do.
one
You can
thing.
only check
I
one.
do.
I could only check
I
one
do.
thing, so.
I do. I do.
Me too. Me too.
I do
I
as
think we
well.
all do. I just,
Is the one about I focus on what I can do and accept the thing? Should it be accept the things I can't do anything?
yeah, I think it's part of the serenity prayer.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I agree. I would probably check all the boxes too.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not allowing that because when I tested, it did do that, but
Yeah,
something must have changed.
it's technology, but at least we're,
Yes,
it's,
we need to set, we need to be able to do any, the ones that are would be helpful to one another.
yeah. Yeah,
You ready?
okay.
Okay.
So am I doing the tips to support yourself? Is that me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So here's some tips to support yourself. Like I said before, to be aware of your own feelings and reactions. This is such a huge thing. And the whole spiritual practice of watching our reactions is really, it can be really trying. But routinely engage in activities and practices that calm you down, as many of our participants are doing. Limit the media exposure, especially when we have small children around. We don't need children around the negativity. Keep communication lines open and, make sure that you're talking to family members or your loved ones, even your universal family. I think that's one of the beautiful things about the Theosophical movement is that we have this, and we've seen it here today. We have this universal family from all around the world, and we're all involved in this organization and this movement for service and so forth. It's quite lovely. It's like a family reunion every time we all get together. I love it. So make sure to set reasonable expectations for yourself. And as the virus spreads and mutates, it tends to pull people apart. This whole thing has tended to isolate us very much. And fear can always overwhelm us, even when we have the best intentions not to let it do that. So it's important that we have a certain sense of service toward each other, caring for our families and our loved ones. And we're going to move into a little bit about the Theosophical Order of Service, but it's important that we start thinking about what can we do for our theosophical, groups and our communities and to the other parts of the world. It's the social distancing is necessary, but it can be potentially isolating. So can we start thinking about how to do something in a remote way to be able to bring unity despite the fact that we're physically distanced from each other? And one of the values of the Theosophical Order of Service is that, Jason, I have a feeling this was supposed to be your slide. That
It is, yeah, sorry.
Okay, why don't you go ahead then?
Okay, before we do anything more, I'm sorry, I'm going to remove this person from the meeting. I think there's somebody who has joined the meeting who's.
Yeah, I think this is a troller, so.
I'm sorry. It just, it isn't helpful. We're getting weird political conversation.
Yeah.
I think our rules for Theosophy ask us to look at science and verify, and I don't think this person is doing very well in that respect.
Well,
Yeah.
I also don't think they're a Theosophical member. I'm not sure what's going on, but we don't need to be I think there's a lot of important information, and there's a lot of things we need to be talking about that bring us together. And
Yes.
we're being criticized unfairly here for trying to help. So I'm sorry to have to do that, but I think it's necessary to move on. So yesterday we were on a different call, and there was a virtual center for Theosophy had a TOS meeting too. And one of the things that I think has come up a few times in our lodge, and I see some of my lodge brothers and sisters are on, is, how do we move forward as individuals? How do we evolve? And when we look at the tie between the Theosophical Society and the TOS, there's a tremendous value to the work that we're doing. And the fact that we tie to the first object of Theosophy, that the fundamental unity of all living things is paramount to our unfolding of our own consciousness, and understanding that unity is a unity for all that is. And the TOS is an avenue that allows us to practice Theosophy in a very important way, because I think that the thing that I try to say sometimes is that Theosophy is not sitting around talking about the secret doctrine. It's actually a way of life. It's a way of living your life inside a framework to view the rest of the world and the unfolding of the world around you. And as we move forward in that life, our example is to unfold our own consciousness into that bigger world, or agape, as the Greeks called it, an altruistic love, which unites our actions with the universal love of agape. And that path to altruism led Annie Besant to the founding of the Theosophical Order of Service. And that's our goal as Theosophists, is to do this work. So the TOS is here to help give us an avenue to participate with that love in the world. And so as we as the board have worked on national projects, and I thought it would be important to say, some of you may not know all the things that we're doing. So even though we've had the pandemic this year, and that we've canceled many of our local programs, we did have a fairly active year. We were trying to work through the shutdown that COVID cost, and many of the local groups were impacted. In fact, one of the local groups that I help coordinate in Wheaton area, we normally do services on a quarterly basis with the Midwest Shelter for Homeless Veterans. We work with the food banks here. We work with the Humanitarian Service Project. And a lot of these places will not allow us to come to distribute food at this point. So we've tried to find other ways of serving. And one of the things we did was our COVID program. And I wanted to thank everybody who donated money or set up meals with the local restaurants for our COVID program this year. We ended up collecting from our membership over $8,000, which was just a fantastic response from our national TOS members. And I have some pictures. There you go, on the next page. We served over 900 meals to folks that were in hospitals, first responders. But when we went into the local places, we didn't want to just give to doctors and nurses. We wanted to make sure that all of the people that worked, that from the janitors that clean the emergency rooms to the reception people, to everyone were getting help with some of these meals because they were working such incredible hours. One woman I talked to had been working 36-hour shifts in the hospital at the peak of the COVID time in Chicago, in downtown Chicago. So we delivered all these meals. We took care of hot zones. All the meals, by the way, were vegetarian. So that was important to us to do. And we ran from Washington State to Virginia. And a lot of folks, Bruce is on here. He helped us with some of the services we did in the Navajo Nation out of Tuba City, Arizona. We did Washington, Seattle, Washington, Chicago, all over. And these are just some of the pictures of some of the services that we were able to do in lieu of doing these other programs. And then finally, what I wanted to talk about a little bit was our giving. I want to distinguish two things. We do grants, and we gave over $16,000 in grants last year out of the TOS USA group to the Vietnam Humanitarian Foundation. We do a nursing scholarship for the Oglala Nursing School once a year. That I think is a very important program that allows a disadvantaged but educationally active student to go to nursing school. And how, Ananya, we've done that. How long have we done that scholarship now?
I think that's over 10 years now.
10 years that we've had a scholar that we've awarded to at that for that program.
And the thing is that many of the students that come from the reservations, they drive 2 hours to be able to go to college, and they get through the nursing program, and then they go back to their own community and help their community in the medical field, which is just wonderful.
So we also give it, here's the list. I don't need to sit and read the whole list. You guys will get the slides when we get done. But I think, one of the ones that I wanted to point out as well was the Caregivers Retreat. That is that's at Orca Island, and that's a
No. The Caregivers Retreat was going to be done by the National Center.
That's right.
Yeah, we were going to do a program to be able to help those who are taking care of somebody at home, and to give them a day of respite and do a retreat in that way. So that, I think, is an important thing, because that type of program can be done at any of our centers or even at a lodge. Because it's giving to the community, the TOS would be more than happy to be able to help, provide some kind of funding for that. So one of the last things I wanted to mention was that we also allocate seed money every year for local groups to do service. So if you are a member of a local lodge and your lodge wants to do service, even 1, 2, or 3 people inside of another organization. For example, if you wanted to work towards environmental sustainability, and there was a project going on with a bigger organization, for example, Sierra Club, and I'm not saying just them, but if you wanted to take your local group and organize as TOS, as a little TOS entrant to go in to help the Sierra Club, for example, or somebody else, any kind of a service, any kind of a program, and you needed seed money in order to organize that group, we have that money available at the national board. Another thing that the seed money can be used for is to we had a little tabletop, and this is post-COVID, obviously, we're hoping things like vegetarian
you know, fairs open back up, where you might be able to go have some presence at you know, like-minded organizations or outings. If you wanted to have a TOS tabletop or just a little bit of presence for your TOS group locally, we have not only capital available for that, but also some you know, a board and a table and paraphernalia that you could give out. That also is what, you know, we have available. So please contact Ananya or any of the board members if you're interested in doing something like that. And then maybe you want to talk about the Healing Service Project, Ananya.
So we do have, which I think, you know, many people know because there's so many that are involved in it, but we do have our healing service ritual that is done in the US. I believe our ritual is just a little bit different than the one that's out there internationally. But we've been getting a great response, especially now that so many of the things that we normally do together people are not able to do. But you know, it's the healing service that has been done for years now that people find very, very beneficial. So if you're interested and you don't know about the healing service, you're welcome to go to our website and find out how to get involved there.
And that's a great segue to my last slide, which is what can you do to help? You know, obviously donating your time, talking to your lodges, bringing, you know, one thing that we found is that not everybody who joins the TS knows what the TOS is. And there are TSA members that don't even know we exist. So, you know, talking to the local lodges, talking to TSA members, you know, and I wrote this word evangelizing, and then my sister said, wait a minute, we don't do that.
Yeah, you can't say that.
Can't say that. And I'm begging to differ with her because, you know, what we're doing is service. And I'm not asking you to go be Billy Graham and bless people or anything like that. I'm asking you to talk about doing service with other like-minded organizations and with folks in your lodge, and, you know, and doing this in a loving way, because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to organize ourselves. So organize, we need local support to facilitate and promote TOS actions. And then also you can donate money. And at the bottom of this slide, one thing that I did when it came in was I put together a recurring donation. Even if you can do $5 a month or something, there's an option to do, you know, platinum, gold, or sustaining memberships rather than doing one donation a year. If you want to do a contributing, you know, monthly donation, you can pick any amount. You can direct that giving if you'd like us to use your money for a specific cause, such as Native American relief, COVID support, Theosophical camps and schools, particularly the Golden Link School, which I know a lot of people donate to. And if you can use our website, it does lower our processing costs, because I don't need to then mail you out a letter that says, thank you for your donation. You get an automatic receipt right away, and we can do it on email, which keeps our costs down and allows us to use less. Obviously, none of our board members or anybody get paid, but the lower we can keep our costs, the more we can put direct donations to actual programs and not have overhead. So that's a very important thing for us as a small group that like we are.
Okay, so now we're going to open this up for discussion, I believe. So I think that most of us have service. I mean, we're all involved in the TOS. So what kind of efforts have you been able to do in the last year? And how has the pandemic affected all of you? And you're welcome to unmute yourselves and at least, go ahead and mention it.
My branch, the Theosophical Society of the East Bay, and we shorten that to East Bay TS. We have never had a really service-oriented membership. What I've found out that has happened though during the COVID-19 pandemic is that our membership has increased their volunteerism in their own personal lives. And this is something that was relatively rare, but they've come to understand that there is great need out there. And because we've been so isolated, I think they've had the ability to think about what is happening, and perhaps they feel more deeply that there's a need out there and that there is something they can do personally rather than in a group. So this is where our branch is coming from. The individuals are doing a lot of volunteer work in their own sphere of influence, so to say.
Wonderful. Anyone else?
Yes, this is Brody from Zambia.
Mm-hmm.
Our TOS team continued to work despite the COVID-19 pandemic. Under the guidelines, we still held, I think Diana knows about it, we've been organizing what we call public speaking contests.
Okay.
Encouraging, and we interact very well with all the high schools in the district. And this time around, we've gone viral kind of. All the high schools on the Copper Belt in the province want to participate in our public speaking contest. And we give prizes, cash prizes to the winning students. And teachers come in, we decide the topics. One topic should be science, one on religion, one on environment, and one could be, social commentary on what is happening in the country.
So you're having these programs, even though you're having, how bad is the COVID in Zambia?
It is bad. Like so far, we are talking of 70,000 infections with about 1,000 deaths. So I don't know, it's about 10-20% death rate. So we have the guidelines, but what we've been told is like in a 400 capacity, sitting capacity wall, we can only sit 200 or 150. So we also restricted the number of pupils from each school to come and support their friends.
I see.
So we had, instead of 400, we only had 150.
Okay, so there are still safety measures being put into place
Yeah, of course.
at the public speaking contests.
Yeah, with the face masks. But we also did another project, which is the tree planting.
Okay.
In the past, we planted trees and people didn't care. They flagged them, they destroyed them because they didn't see those trees to be of value. We did tree planting along the street, but this time we thought, let's plant fruit trees because they will be beneficial to the people. Maybe they take care. So we planted 15 avocado trees at the high schools. And this time they look to be very interested. Avocado planting and business of harvesting avocados has become big in the country and the region.
Right.
So we're thinking that the schools will benefit by harvesting when the trees grow. they'll benefit by saving, and then the school to help in the administration costs of running
Wonderful,
government schools.
wonderful. Thank you. Thank
So
you.
that's what we did last year, and the first week of this year, the first 2 weeks in this year, in January.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thanks for joining. It's good to hear your
Thank you,
voice.
Anake. Thanks.
Anyone else?
I'm Mary Hawkins. I'm the treasurer at the Detroit Lodge.
Mhm.
And our board is kind of stretched pretty thin. And I've been the only person sort of representing TOS at our local lodge, and trying to keep people inspired to stay altruistic. The project that we've picked and we continue to service is the Grace Centers of Hope, which is very highly rated by Charity Navigator and very highly recognized in the Detroit metro area as an important community outreach center. And so they have a number of programs, and what we've continued to do is contribute non-cash items to their 4 what they call resale shops, and profits from those resale shops support all their community outreach programs. And so that's what we continue to do. And so I'm glad to be here and get more ideas about what we can do. But like I said, our energy and resources are kind of limited in terms of time. So we pick projects that don't involve a whole lot of, an intense labor or, intensive involvement.
Okay. Yeah, that's understandable.
But I'd like to know what can I take back to help our fellow board members, and what can our board do to support our membership in terms of, keeping them, caring for their wellness, and also inspiring them to maybe do some projects on their own.
Mhm.
Mary, would it help if a board member maybe addressed your lodge? Maybe we took a little bit of time in one of your lodge meetings and kind of gave a very small snapshot of the things we're doing.
That would be good. I'm also the local contact for the Healing Network, Diane Eisenberg, and she sends me the list, and I send her lists, and we're back and forth on the Healing Project.
Well, that's great.
Can I say some words here? We have 35 members who contribute to the Theosophical Order of Service, sending out names for the healing. And it's always, I call it loving, not personal, but loving and fond thoughts go out. And it is wonderful. We help people who ask. We also very supportive of one another. This helps the group. And it really enforces so much. I am so appreciative of all of us. And I know there are a few of us attending conference here. And thank you. Thank you so much from the heart.
Same here. I'm so glad that I can offer, when I have a chance to communicate with our membership and my board, that if you want to be on the Healing Network, it's available both locally and nationally. And so I'm just proud that there's that service, that opportunity for, additional help where people need it.
Peggy?
I volunteered to do a little project for the TOS USA, and that was to send out little healing cards, similar to business cards, to the branches and study centers. And I'm halfway into that project now. I have all the labels of the contact people of all the branches and all the study centers. I have all the business cards, or rather the healing cards, ready to go to that. And what I want to do, the final step, would be to compile a cover letter that would discuss the healing network and the use of these cards. And in addition to that, because it goes out to all the contact people of all the formal branches and study centers, what I would also like to do is put a TOS flyer in there with various emails or ways to contact the TOS. For more information, or to schedule a speaker, or just to give them this information. And I think sending these healing cards is kind of like receiving a little gift. So maybe they would be paying a little more attention to the TOS once this goes out. And
I think
Ananya,
that's a really nice, that's a nice idea.
I would like to, Ananya, to, I would say, make a draft of the cover letter and send it to you and maybe the rest of the board members for ideas to include in that cover letter. I don't want to do this on my own without input from the rest of the board.
Yeah, yeah.
So with your permission, I will go ahead and I'll do an outline of the cover letter and some of my thoughts about just reiterating what I said about including a flyer with those cards.
Perfect. Yeah, and I did want to throw out to people that, you know, we have been tossing around the idea because, and I hope I'm not taking my board by surprise, but we have been talking about this, about trying to do some kind of national conference online for TOS, because the thing is that I think it's going to be a while before we actually can meet in person. I really don't see how we're going to have a summer national convention. And Zoom really is quite an amazing tool to be able to use, to be able to bring people together and have different little rooms and discussion groups and so forth. So it's just a matter of coordinating that. And we're hoping that that might help fill people's cups a little bit, because I think those of us who serve and, you know, that it's hard to know really what can we do when, you know, we're not able to physically be able to be present with each other. And you can't go out to a homeless shelter to serve food. Everything is so complicated now. So I was thinking that at least at a conference of some kind, we can help stir ideas for each other and bring support to each other.
May I say something about Europe?
Yes, yes.
I'm living in Holland, part of Europe, and we have very strong restrictions here. We have an evening clock. We cannot leave our homes after 9 o'clock in the evening. We can only see one visitor at our home. So we are very restricted. So it's completely impossible to do anything. And I'm fearing it will end till at least summertime. And I am afraid after the summer it will come back. So I agree with you that Zoom will be the only possibility. That's what we do now. We do in little groups. We have Zoom conferences, but helping people is very difficult because older people and not so well educated people are not so familiar with the computer in our country. So we have a lot of groups. You can ask them, come on, we do Zoom, we do this, but they won't come in. So it's the same thing in the US, or is it in Europe more severe even? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge problem, because that leaves out certain groups of people, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Now, yeah, but then we have the same problems as you have. And even helping people is different because people are so afraid. Many elder people are so afraid. When you enter the door, they say, oh, you better not come in. Oh, no. Oh, I better not come in. So people are so afraid that even that is difficult to communicate with people. You have the same problems, I understand. Or is it in the US better, easier?
No, it's probably about the same. It depends on the community that you're in. I mean, right now I'm living in a community, I'm in Crotona, and you know, Maria is here. Maria Parison, I mean, she and I, we see each other on the road when we're, you know, she's walking her dog or I'm out for a walk and so forth. But, you know, it's still, everybody's still very much isolated, and we have to be because of the safety issues. Because we have many people here that are over, you know, over 70. So it's really.
Yeah, no, it's the same problem. So I recognize the same problem here. And yeah, for myself, I'm not so much afraid of the pandemic. I'm not. I easily like to go out, but most people here are so scared. They lock themselves in, and yeah, that's the way it is.
Right. Did anyone else want to contribute to? Oh, Anne, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute. Well, a couple of things I want to say, but one of them is I know that last year the ITC voted that they would definitely be online on Zoom this summer, you know, so they said a year in advance they would be online. And so I do think that's an excellent idea. The other thing, I moved after being 22 years in the Texas area. So with the trouble that Texas is going through now, which is not, there are people that have not recovered from Harvey yet. And then Texas is under such a terrible crisis. As a matter of fact, I was supposed to present at the Houston Lodge yesterday, but we had to cancel it because of all the problems. And I'm not there anymore, but I will contact Triet. And I think it would be important for someone in the Houston Lodge to contact everyone just to see how they're doing during this crisis. So we're saying, what can we do? Offer compassion. We just want to know how you're doing. You know, is there anything that can be done by a member? But even just the call, we're thinking of you. So I see that as one thing that we can do as a TOS when there's any kind of crisis. I don't know if from the national level that if we have a crisis area that we know we have a lodge or we have meetings that we contact them from the national level. I mean, that may be a possibility, but I mean, Houston is in, and the whole surrounding area, all of Texas is in a terrible mess. I mean, it is just, it is just horrible. And so anyway, that is just a suggestion of something that can be done via email, via Zoom, by whatever we want to do. As I'm saying, I'm going to make that suggestion to Triet, just that within the lodge that people contact others. And so that is something that we can do during by, you know, electronic means.
All right, anyone else? Joyce, did you want to go on?
Just a slide before your next one. This is Mr. Rogers, and we couldn't help but add him because he's such a wise man who did so much for so many children and all of us. But as leaders of our local groups, sometimes we forget that we can become so overwhelmed with all the needs in our communities that we can just take baby steps, and small projects may turn into larger projects. But this quote that it's tempting to think a little isn't significant and that only a lot matters. But most things that are important in life start very small and change very slowly, and they don't come with fanfare and bright lights. So we do need to use our higher creativity to find ways to possibly start small, start with baby steps if that's what we can do right now, and the energy will flow possibly into larger projects. But Ananya will now give an example of how a project can start small and easily grow.
So when I was living in Chicago, I would go for a walk through my neighborhood and so forth. And every time that I came, every now and again, I would come across these little stones that had been painted, and there was a little word on it, and it might be love, or it might be compassion, or a message like you are loved, that kind of thing. And I was always surprised by this. And then I got an email from our, it's our next door group. I don't know if they have that out here, but it's just neighbors that you can join this like email group. And somebody had written in and said, as a kindness project to our loving neighbors and our friends, her children had taken up this kindness project. And basically what they had done is they went and collected some rocks and they painted them and then put little messages on them. And they spread them throughout the neighborhood, so that when you were walking along the path or wherever you went, you'd see this little color coming out of the grass, and then you would go up to it and read the message. And it was always something that was inspiring, you know. And so and I just thought that was such a creative idea, and neighbors enjoyed it. So that's just one of the ideas that that when Joyce was talking about this was one of the ideas that I was telling her about. But you know, I can't remember how many years ago it was, but Kathy Gann had done a whole experiment with people about finding out what projects were they doing? What do we do as kindness toward our neighbors? You know, and it was amazing how many people sent in stories about the different things that they did. One of them was picking the worms up off the sidewalk. It was as simple as that, because life for the worm is just as important as our own life, you know, to people going and being an electrician by profession, but going and helping out a neighbor whose electrical wiring went out. So this whole thing about the kindness project, she had started this thing about promoting more kindness and seeing what would happen with this kindness project. And it was really kind of interesting. It went on for, I think, 3 months, if I'm not mistaken. And then, you know, it kind of dwindled on its own. So, but there are things that we can do to be able to provide inspiration to each other. It's just a matter of creativity. And let's see, I'm trying to think of where we are with this presentation because we've kind of gone off course.
A mutual journey.
Say that again. Yeah,
A
the mutual
mutual
journey,
journey.
but we've already covered this, so to speak. You know, I mean, it's about really encouraging people through love and compassion, you know, and being a force of beneficence for the people that are around us. That is how we do the work that we do through the TOS. It's, you know, we should be the ones that sort of be able to bring that goodness into the world through the actions that we do, as well as through our attitudes and the you know, the emotional encouragement that we have for other people. And, you know, the healing network is a remarkable tool to be able to use, to be able to provide a positive influence in the environment around us, because it just keeps on moving out like a ripple effect. So, but leading with service is more challenging. You know, it tends to be challenging through this whole year because of these problems of how do we do this while still keeping everybody safe. You know, but the whole thing is to be able to strengthen the bonds of our human connection and uplift each other through this whole process. So, Joyce, did you want to say anything?
Let's see, just as we're moving on, where were we at? Leading with service? No, we're just, again, just emphasizing, you know, uplifting each other, approaching the year, this third month now into the year with joy and translating it into action. And so let's ask ourselves as we move forward, We're not moving on. Things are going to be a little different, but you know, can we truly move forward with gratitude for the positive things that have really happened? We've found ways to cope and to handle things that we never expected to do before. Can we move forward with our humanity by placing service as a priority? And can we move forward with resilience, with our personal strategies, action, and hope in our hearts? And then Ananya, I think you wanted to work with that one word.
Yeah, and I did want to, yeah, so as we go forward, you know, in the chat box, you know, what's one word that you, as you move forward, what's one word that you can think of that you might, one, need to bring into your life, or two, that has been helping you through this pandemic? You know, what is it that you could possibly give to somebody else to be able to encourage them? And you're welcome to write it in the chat box, or, you know, just share it verbally. An optimistic attitude. That's lovely. And that is totally Diana. She's one of the most optimistic people I've ever met. Dr. Jerry, faith. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, look at all of them coming in. You guys are amazing. Positive flow, that's 2 words. Yeah. Yeah, Maria writes, a trust in human goodness, and isn't that the truth? I mean, we are born with that goodness within us. We just have to trust it. Such a lovely group of people. Hope. Absolutely. Yeah. Isn't that the truth? Bruce writes, read the news looking for nonviolent actions fostering change. Be the balm. We should have t-shirts that say that, be the balm.
Mm-hmm.
So we seem to have people here who find their own inner strength, which would be absolutely lovely were we to have a conference to be able to provide support to a number of other people. Deb Lee writes healing. Yeah, definitely healing. One of the things that I would like to do, though, is I'd like to talk about, just real quick, always strive to get out of our comfort zones, actually. Yeah, so that we'll grow. Yep, growing pains, definitely. Lewis, thank you. That is so true. Yeah, and that is one of the things we do talk about is, you know, when we are able to go back out into the world, is to try to stretch yourself a little bit, do things that aren't always comfortable. Serving food to the homeless is really, it can sometimes become uncomfortable, but you know, they're human beings as well. They deserve our compassion. So let's move on to the next slide. I just wanted to give some resources. If anybody, there are people that are struggling. There are, in fact, I tend to come across them quite a bit because I'm a mental health counselor. I do want to recommend that if you find that there is somebody who has a sense of absolute hopelessness and you're not really sure how to help them, do please recommend that they call the suicide hotline. You don't necessarily have to be suicidal to call the suicide hotline. It's completely anonymous, it's confidential. I used to work on the suicide hotline, and it is a great place just to have someone to talk to, even someone who's anonymous to talk to. And generally they'll say, you know, can I have a name of somebody that I'm talking to? And they do that just so that there's some kind of alliance that is taking place between the caller and the person, the paraprofessional on the phone. So, you know, definitely recommend this number, take it down, or recommend that somebody, you know, call the line. And, you know, take care of yourself. Take care of what is your body telling you. Pay attention to the stress levels, as well as pay attention to the joys that you have around you. You know, have a gratitude journal. Nurture your body with healthy food. One of the things that everybody keeps on talking about is how tired they are. You know, so it's really important to try to get some sunlight if you're in an area where there's not a lot of sunlight right now. I used to find a sunbeam through a window and lay on the floor just to get some heat in my body. You know, when it was wintertime, you know, or walk the stairs just to get some exercise if you're stuck inside your house. So, and then build in routines of meditation. Make sure to take a nap when you're feeling tired. So those are some of the resources. You know, like we said before, that we have the Healing Network. You can go to our website, www.theoservice.org, to be able to give names to the Healing Network. The Mental Health of America also has a wonderful website, as well as NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness. They've got some great posts there for people. So these are resources to take back with you. And we are going to have our last poll of the day. So we want to continue offering these webinars that we made with you today. So we want to talk about future projects and how often do we meet to do this? So the poll's going to come up now. Because we'd like to continue the discussion. We'd like to be able to offer the ability to have a check-in with people. So the question is, are you interested in meeting regularly?
I'm watching it, and it's like watching a horse race. I wanted to say Saturdays 2 lengths back, Sundays in the lead, Sundays moving forward. Monday is coming around the corner. Here you go.
Sundays are better.
Good.
Okay. All right, well then that's something that we can keep in mind, and we can start possibly, you know, getting something together so we can do a check-in, and that way, you know, and if you don't want to attend because you don't feel you need to, at least let other people know. So the last quote of the day is, Theosophy is who Theosophy does. Not thinks, not studies, not feels, but does. Because as we've always said, you know, Theosophy is altruism. And altruism is that whole process of action, of kindness and action and compassion. So I'd like to thank everyone who's participated. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And also, are there any comments that anybody would like to make? Are there any suggestions of things that the TOS should nationally be doing?
I just like to compliment you on even having this. Has been very helpful to me. But I do want to comment on, I got on your website trying to get the link to this event today, and I thought their website didn't look really up to date. But I don't know if during this time maybe there's not enough staff to keep it looking fresh.
Actually, our website is updated about every 2 months. We have a newsletter that goes out. Oh, somebody's echoing. So can everyone mute? Oh, there we go. We have a newsletter that goes out once every quarter. And we were doing that specifically because we had a magazine that was going out every, I think, twice a year. We just recently actually updated our website because the main projects that we do are on our first screen. And I'm not sure, Mary, what you were looking at.
Well, this event wasn't listed.
It wasn't listed on our website.
No.
Probably.
Maybe I'm not that acquainted with navigating that website, but I thought I looked at every possible drop-down list.
I would agree that we can be better at it, and I think we can work on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
Okay. And it may have been because we decided to do this after the material went in for the website for the updating. So, but that is something that we should probably pay attention to.
I surely understand it's not meant as a criticism.
No, not at all. Not and not taken as one. I really I respect. I appreciate. I do appreciate the feedback.
Yep, you're welcome. Sent with love.
Ananya,
yeah.
Would this the slide presentation be available to us?
Yeah,
I'd like to use it as a cheat sheet.
No cheating allowed, Peggy.
We can post it on the website, and you could download it if you want to. I think that would be a good thing to do.
Perfect.
Yeah, then we can share it with our fellow members, board members, and general membership.
Okay. Are there any other topics that you feel that should be done?
One other thing I want to add real quick, I can also post the Zoom link to this meeting if you'd like that as well.
Do you mean the recording for it?
Yes, I've recorded this meeting.
Okay.
So I'll also post the PowerPoint separately, and I'll post a link to the recording of this meeting.
Excellent.
Will we all get an email announcing the next meeting?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll do a better job. I think this kind of came up spontaneously, didn't it, Joyce? Do you want to comment?
Well, we were talking about doing a webinar and hopefully having a series, and I don't know, it just hit. You know, when it hits, you got to follow the thought forms and the energy. So that's just, it came to be really fast.
I'm glad it did come together. It was helpful to me.
Thank you. We sure appreciate everyone's in attendance and all the wonderful ideas.
Yes, absolutely. Diana.
I'd like to thank all the people who contributed to setting up the structure for the meeting, the slides and the polls and the one-word response to the chat box. It's just great to have all those elements. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
It's lovely to me to see all of you again. You know, I live in France, and I kind of miss speaking my own language and seeing you all. It's wonderful. I just want to keep giving you all kisses, but
thank you. Loving kindness back.
Yeah. So are there any final comments? Bruce?
One quick, Tupelo was a little bit out there for this group, but I would also say that we shouldn't discourage people from coming and saying the things that they're having trouble with. In my experience, sharing a problem even for 30 seconds is a problem halved. The more times we can share the things that are going on in our life that aren't always positive, or if we can't see positive yet, coming to a group like this feels good to be able to just say it out loud and know and see a head nod or something like that. When I'm in these groups, I wouldn't hesitate to share it, and I would just offer that out to others as well. It's not a counseling session, but it sure is helpful just to say what's on your mind in a group of supportive people. That's all. Thank you.
I apologize about that. I honestly, there was somebody who wrote to our Facebook page and messaged on a messenger. And when I went and looked at the profile to see who this person was, realizing they had no association with Theosophy or the TOS, I probably should have not invited them to start with, but I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. So that was considered on my part to not, exclude somebody for unknown reasons, but when that came on and it seemed to be disruptive, so my apologies for that.
No, there's no harm done. I think I'd rather that you take that risk than to not take it. I think there was no harm done. It's better to take a risk, and he might have been a really positive person.
And we all certainly want to include people if possible, but there's a lot of people on the internet that are, for whatever reason, this is how they enjoy their day.
Oh, well. Are there any other comments? Okay, well then I'd just like to say thank you to everybody. These are, this was really truly put together very quickly. I apologize for the mess up with the link and the information that went out, and then the lack of information on the website, but next time we'll do a much better job. So, and I'm getting a thumbs up from Salisa, so that's always more encouraging to my heart. So, but I'd like to thank everybody for coming. And I do want to say to those who came internationally, from the international realm, it really does warm my heart when I see these faces from around the world. It's so, we've got, Ibroni from Zambia, Diana's from France, Atma and Cynthia are from London or from England. And then of course, Scasia from the Netherlands. It really does, it warms my heart. So thank you.
Thank you for having us, foreigners.
Of course, you're always welcome. So you're my universal family. Love you guys.
Does anybody know Alice Boland from the Netherlands, which is a new person?
She was the other one from the Netherlands who said she was going to try to come, but I believe she's attending the European School of Theosophy. So she wasn't able to make it.
What name was it? I didn't understand. What name was it?
Alice Boland.
Boland. Bouwland.
Alice Bouwman. Oh yes.
Bouwman. Okay.
All right. Yeah, Bouwman. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now next time she'll be there, I think.
Yeah. Okay, well, this concludes our webinar, and I'd like to thank you all again for coming. Thank you so much. So be safe, have a wonderful Sunday or Monday, and
Great job.
Thank you so much.
I agree.
So
thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Namaste.
Bye.
Namaste.
Well.
Palms together. Gratitude.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Spiritual hug to everyone.
Same to you, love.
Can I ask a couple of you? I'm going to try to think if there's something we could do here at Pumpkin Hollow
Definitely,
to start a chapter and see if people around are interested in joining. You know, we have this infrastructure here, not doing much this summer as far as guests because of COVID. Typically, we're working 10-hour days in the summer. Now we have this kitchen, we have the grounds, we have cabins. I don't know. So I've been a member, but now I feel like maybe we could actually do something positive. I mean, we do small things already just to do them, but if there's any